Hello everyone and welcome back to Fantasy Funhouse. Hope you guys have been enjoying IEM Sydney. I definitely have been. It's been nice just waking up and watching Counter-Strike in the morning, even though I've missed a few games. I still ended up with a top 3% draft, and I'm very happy with that. I'm also happy with the calls that I made in my last video. I think a lot of my assumptions were spot on. Betboom being the upset team, Mouse being the team with the easiest run, and also Monty being a decent team to pick into. Now, I was wrong about going double on them, but my bro call, spot on. Much better pick than HOOXI would have been for the same price point, and I think that definitely helped get my draft across the line. I was a little surprised that Rops didn't do as well as I hoped. It was interesting that Brokey and Rain were the best picks on phase. Not at all what I expected, especially Brokey. I feel like Rain you can understand with the Pika's advantage in CS2, but either way, it worked out, top 3%, very happy. Especially because now it puts me in the top 10, at number 10 in fact. Yeah, I was kind of aiming to get into the top 10 with IEM Sydney, so to be here after groups feels very good. Also, it's less than 30 points between me and Scrawny at the top. So there's a world where I can end up pretty high on the scoreboard if I can keep this momentum going. And it all starts here with the playoffs. So let's see what we can do here, what we're looking at. Single elimination bracket as always in the playoffs, and I think one thing I learned from Cologne that doesn't quite apply as much here because it's not a best of 5, it's a best of 3 grand final, but you want to pick the teams that are going to end up in that grand final. I think when you're looking at this draft and you're looking at these teams, to me the one that stands out the easiest path to the grand final is G2. If you're trying to play this safe, trying to play this smart, it's probably silly to avoid G2 just because of that run to the grand final. I think if you're looking at the other side of the bracket, Mal's, I'm not so sure on, right? Playing with the stand-in had a fairly simple path to the playoffs. So I don't think I'm 100% sold on them. And I think if you're looking at this top side, that actually ENCE is probably the favorite team. Now the reason I say that is that ENCE have beaten FaZe in every best of 3 this year, which is 3 best of 3s. Yes, that was on CSGO, and yes, FaZe are definitely the team of the two that more embraces CS2. There's definitely some CS2 haters on the ENCE side, but I think I'm just a bit more convinced by ENCE overall. I feel like FaZe looked a little scrappy in some of their games. It's very reasonable that Gamer Legion could have been here instead of FaZe. So something to consider, and that's why I'd probably lean more into ENCE. I think if you're looking at that upset team, again, you're looking at Betboom. Even though Complexity is the favorite here, Betboom definitely a team that has shown that they can upset. And the reason, again, that I say G2 as the best path is G2 has already demolished Complexity in a best of 3 on CS2 at this event. And I think Complexity is a team that beats Betboom. So G2, easy path to grand final. ENCE FaZe, bit of a coin flip. I lean slightly more to ENCE. And that's going to be the logic I use for my drafts. First off, I think the pricing is a lot more reasonable in the playoff stage just generally. I think there's a lot more you can do with the drafts. The main teams that haven't gone changed are Mouse, who are still very expensive. In fact, Shui has gone up 6k, which makes him a little bit trickier to draft into. I think it's interesting that FaZe haven't really seen much change, particularly on Brokey and Raid, who performed exceptionally well during the group stage. So I think they're very interesting choices from FaZe. I think Snappy's price at 183 is very good. He had the same rating as Nerds through the group stage as the 1.0 rating, so that's pretty nifty. I think also it's a bit of a shame Betboom's floor has gone up. Both Nafni and Danis have risen by like 20 to 30k each. Like that's kind of crazy that they've gone up like 20k. Kind of makes it harder to do a little dip into Betboom, so something to consider as well. But yeah, just a few considerations. As I mentioned, G2 is going to be the centerpiece of my drafts. And I think if you're looking at G2, going HOOXI Monacy is almost unavoidable. HOOXI starts in that second stage, so it gets a round of padding, which is 6 points. And the next cheapest player that gets that padding is Shui. So HOOXI feels like a good choice because you miss that first round and it enables you to do better drafts. So already he's a good choice. Plus his performance hasn't been that bad. He's only been a little bit behind JKS. So honestly, for his price point, he's a good choice here. And most people are going to pair him with Monacy. Monacy, highest rated player during the group stage. Feels like a must-pick combo if you're going into G2. That's going to be where we start. Looking at the other side of the bracket, as I mentioned, I think ENCE is the team that's going to go through. You can do a phase draft here with G2, But I think if you're going to go, say, the Rain Brokey combo, it does limit your options. I think a lot of people will go into Danis probably over JT, but it does make things a bit tricky. So for me personally, I'm going to look at ENCE. And because Snappy is such a good value, I know we're going double bronze, but Snappy was pulling pretty good ratings in CS2. Also, ENCE are a big stage team, so I kind of feel comfortable with picking him here. Alongside him, I'm going to run Diha. 200k is really good for Diha. He's a little bit more expensive than Madden, who did perform better during the group stage, but Madden had a negative KD overall because he's that kind of player. I prefer a safer pair of hands, and Diha I think is just one of those really solid riflers. To me, this combo feels really good, considering I'm not over-investing into ENCE. It's left me with a lot of money left over, and you gotta be wondering, where am I going with this? I'm going to Complexity. I'm picking Elige here. Now, yes, I could go in on Exertion, but I'm not sure if Mouse actually beat either ENCE or FaZe, whereas I'm pretty confident Complexity beat Betboo. Plus, if there is any upset, if Complexity somehow beat G2, no one's picking Complexity. If I've got Elige, the best rated player from that team, and they do the upset, I'm guaranteed a really good placement. So to me, this just feels like a really cheeky little choice at the end that kind of gives me a back way through to a top placing if things go wrong with my G2 pick. I will say it's got a little bit of risk in it, but I think there's still safety here, and then I think I've got the two teams that make it through to the grand final. So it's going to be the mimes. The roles work really well as well. I do have a variation on this roster I want to show you quickly as well. So this is one if I didn't want to go into HOOXI. So this would be Monacy JKS instead. And if you wanted to go down this path, you could technically go into FaZe and you could pick Carrigan Rain here. But I really don't like the Carrigan pick. I just think he's never a good choice. I wasn't impressed by what I saw from him individually during the group stage. So again, we go back to Snappy. We have to get Madden so that we've got a bit of extra cash. And like I said, Madden had a good performance. So, you know, there's a chance he continues that onto the main stage. Leaves us with 196, and with that, we grab Shuey. So with this one, we get some padding from Shuey, which is nice. He has the second highest rated player for Mal, so he's a good pick just generally. So overall, this one feels a little bit safer than my other draft, but I don't know. I kind of like going in on that Complexity gamble for the bit of extra points it'll give me. And like I said, I'm not super confident in Mal, so I prefer to put a little bit more weight into ENCE. It is an option though. It's got less weak points, I would say overall. And as always, I've got my upset draft for you. This is the one where if you really wanted to go for the 1%er, if everything just goes crazy and the teams that shouldn't win. With this one, we start off with Betboo. We're going to grab Zorte and Chiron. Chiron, best rated player for this team. Zorte, the AWPer, I feel like on the big stage is probably going to be a little bit more consistent than say a Siren or potentially a Nafany. So that'll be my combo there. We look over towards FaZe then, who I think are the other team that has the least likely chance of winning. And we go the Rain Brokey combo, who have proven themselves to be the duo to go in on. And finally, we end it with HOOXI. The reason we go with HOOXI is because of the padding points, so he's less risky than Snappy because we're betting on FaZe winning that matchup. So this would be my kind of crazy out there draft, but as I said, this is the one I'm looking to go with. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think my second draft is better than the first draft. I don't know. Let me know how you did in Sydney, and let me know what you're cooking up. I want to know. Good luck.